What if I told you that your sales reps could generate 30% of their own pipeline by spending 30 minutes every day on LinkedIn? Don't believe me?
But if we talk about specific numbers, so dream data last year, I had to write it down because I had to check it in our own tool. This year, our team has created a pipeline of $2.7 million from LinkedIn. I sourced around 1 million this year in pipeline, but then again, what was the first touch? Was it just me?
That's Laura. Not only did we get her to share her playbook with you, she's also sharing 2 secret tricks at the end of the episode.
2 things come top of mind. A very usual question I get is like, do you want to go viral? And my dirty trick and answer is no, you want to go consistent.
Before we jump into the show, today's episode is brought to you by Everstage, the top-rated sales commissions platform on G2, Gartner Peer Insights, and Trustradius, with more than 2,000 reviews from customers like Diligent, Wiley, Trimble, and more. Visit everstage.com and mention Revenue Formula to unlock a personalized sales compensation strategy session with one of Everstage's RevOps experts. And now, enjoy the show.
You kind of threw me off now, but anyway, I invited Laura onto the show, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm your biggest fans." So, probably we need to give her very little preparation for what's happening in the introduction of the episode itself.
Oh, you mean that we really struggle to be funny, but try?
No, exactly. And I can tell you today, I was very close to hopping on social media and be the complainer.
Oh.
Because what happened, and you probably don't know this yet, but we had one snowflake hit the railroad tracks, and all the trains, they stopped working. They could not function anymore. And I was stuck first at a station to just wait for the train, and then in a tunnel in order to, come here to record with you. It almost didn't happen. I almost complained on social, but I decided against it because I wasn't sure.
You decided to just be lazy. Not do it. Oh, build awareness. Let's not do that.
There is a politician in the US who says, I'm not going to say this, but this, and that. It's like, I'm not going to complain about this, but this happened.
You know what? It's just like Tony. He's like, I don't want to tell you how to do your work, but...
This would be so great if you did this.
Yeah. That's also how we run the show. But thanks so much for joining us on this show. You're obviously super active on LinkedIn, unlike one person on this show, and I'm not going to give any more comments away than that.
Jesus.
What we wanted to talk with you about today specifically is actually self-prospecting and how you've done that as a seller, specifically the channels you've used, which is probably, I think when we talk about self-prospecting, people think, oh, you're cold calling and emailing folks, right?
Yeah.
But that's not kind of what you're doing, right? You're doing something very different.
Yeah, thank you for getting me on the show. Also, the reason why I'm on the show is due to what I'm doing. So which means that self-prospecting, after I spoke here as well, there very likely are people who would be interested about this. And then they would be thinking, oh, so should we be doing social? So maybe we should ask Laura about some of the questions because I got questions. And the good thing is all of those people are our buyers as well. So after we spoke about social selling and measurement of that as well, then we can probably uncover some other issues that you're having in your company. And we had the conversation about something totally different. So that type of selling that is absolutely indirect is the way people buy nowadays. It's the community, is how you feel about the product that you're buying. How will it be for me to work with that type of a company? And they don't come from cold calling. The likely does. I'm really, really happy to follow companies that claim that cold calling is working and cold emailing is working, because I want to talk more with them to understand how it's working, and that they're not trying to sell that thing to me, but they're just telling me how it's working. But for our buyers who are in marketing and in sales, well, they know how the job is done of outbounding, and they hate it. How often do you respond to a cold message? Like whenever you feel, oh, it feels like they're pitching me. It's like, okay, goodbye. You don't even respond to that. And not because you don't like the person or you think that it is something like, I don't know, I will not want the product. It's just, I know where it's going, and you're not going to give value to me. You're just going to try to pitch a meeting. And it's like 1% chance that I will find it relevant, because if I knew it was relevant, I would have already investigated your product before. So that type of self-prospecting, we're going to talk about that today.
And can you take us maybe a little bit back in time, right? Because you're working for Dream Data, it's revenue attribution. Go check it out if you don't know about them already. But you have also been one of the first employees, basically the first AE joining Dream Data, right? And I think back then when you joined, I think Outbound was still cool. People were still doing it.
Well, it was working. I don't know if it was cool, but
well, but it feels you and the team took a very different stance to the whole thing, which is already there interesting. What I was always wondering, was this born out of like, oh, we're selling marketing attribution, we're doing the social selling, and then, this is how we can start a conversation? Or was it more like this necessity thing? It's like, oh shit, I don't think we want to do cold calling. What else can we do? Let's all go on LinkedIn and start pushing content. How did this evolve in the beginning?
Yeah, it starts even before that, because before joining Dream Data, I worked at Gartner, and my outbound sequence took 3 steps. So they were exactly how you write the email, what you do before you call the executive. I was selling to the CIOs and CTOs in Danish C20 companies. And then you do this email, this email, this email, and then you call. And then you book a meeting. Literally, there were more or less no negative effects of that. And people were taking meetings because you're Gartner. Because it's like, oh, I want to know what they have got to say for me. So to start with, I was probably spoiled that Outbound really works. It's so good. And then I joined Dream Data and nothing worked. We wrote those beautiful emails that I'm used to writing Gartner, enlightening the problem, coming up with some ideas, and then saying, oh, but that blog post that we're sharing, it's not kind of cheesy anyway, because people know this from some other places as well. So like, you're not Gartner. Okay, so, and then we spoke with Stefan. I think it was not even a big conversation that we got to be where our buyers at. And we sell to marketers and sometimes sales, but most of the times marketers, operations. And those people are on LinkedIn. So we got to be active. And my level of activity at Gartner was, whatever marketing team was sharing, please reshare that. And as little words as possible of your own, because this is how we frame this. Don't touch it. And that's what we used to do, and that doesn't work. So we figured out, okay, we need to do a little bit maybe personal stuff. And at that time, I understood, okay, so I'm actually quite creative. So it's not just those frames where you put your email, change the name, change the problem, and then ship it out as a personal email. Then you could change those posts into a bit more personal, a bit more funny, and so on. And nothing really worked at that time. But slowly we started seeing that people are liking it and commenting on that. Then we started to see, okay, is it the target audience? It is. Okay, it's marketers, it's operations, it's people in the right sizes of companies we're trying to target. The numbers were really low, but it was mostly Stefan and I who were doing the posting. And then we figured out, so what can we use LinkedIn for more? There are those LinkedIn Lives as well. So Stefan, what do you think? So our marketers, they don't want to book a meeting with us to have a demo with us. What if I ran a LinkedIn Live event and did a demo? So anybody could watch it. And we don't even ask for an email, so just do it. And it was very bad. So nobody could see the screen, and it was like nobody cared. And I think we maybe had like 3 people attending, and 2 of them were Dream Data. But then slowly we evolved this, okay, let's try something different. This time I'll try slides, just about Dream Data. Okay, maybe 7 people attended. Then the next time I will interview you, Stefan, and then evolving. So all that bubble started to figure out, okay, marketers actually listen to it when it's relevant for them. And that's where it was all born. So Outbound never worked at the beginning of the journey at Dream Data. I did a sheer amount of outbound calls. I love it because I hate it at that time. It's just like sports. It's like, you got to do it. And you really, really hate it. A couple of people pick it up. He's like, oh, my energy levels are higher now because I had a conversation. Did you book a meeting? No. But it was great. So it never really worked. And social selling does. Even yesterday, I had a call with a prospect who said, well, we chose Dream Data, now we're going into procurement, and we chose you because we like your social presence. It seems like the people that we're going to work with is the group of the people that are both smart, have an amazing product, but the vibe of the company also fits into what we're looking to find in a collaboration with the company.
Yeah. So what you're saying is even in B2B, people buy from people and not logos.
Oh, wow.
So that's awesome.
Let's not have a marketing conversation now.
We can transition or pivot this episode. Yeah. So I think before we share, obviously we're going to run through the playbook, right? And get some of the facts straight. I also just want to hear, how much pipeline are you actually creating with this play? Is this even going to be remotely interesting to a CRO or VP sales? Are they going to go like, you're doing just what, 5K a month in more pipeline? It's like, great, let's totally do that. So just to get an idea of the effect, what are we talking about here?
So to get to that fact, you also need to talk about what do you need to measure in order to understand if social selling is working. Because in B2Bs, it's not like you just hired Kim Kardashian to do an advertisement for your bag, and in a week you have sold 50,000 of bags. Very easy, right? Because we bought this ad, it's very expensive, and then a lot of people bought it. So easy. But for B2Bs, you can't count it like that. So, okay, Laura, you made a video yesterday, and a week after, somebody booked a demo from direct traffic to your website. But on the call, they said they did it because they saw a video of you. That happens very rarely, and it's very close to impossible to measure that as well. Because what it has to happen is you got to know that you did a video, you got to know that the person mentioned you. If you have a lot of salespeople, you would not capture that either. And you have to measure, where do they come from? They came in direct, great. How often do people type in your company name that even ends with .io into their browser and then land on the website, book a demo, and then talk to sales? That is like something else is happening. So before getting into the actual pipeline numbers, you got to know how to measure it. We can talk about that as well. But if we talk about specific numbers, so Dream Data last year, I had to write it down because I had to check it in our own tool. So this year, our team has created a pipeline of $2.7 million from LinkedIn pipeline. Okay. And then you're asking me, how much did you source yourself? So, and then I said, so how do I count this? Do I go back and count all of the times that every single AE said they mentioned Laura on the Dream Data site on a call that they see our videos? Or they said, oh, we saw your LinkedIn Live event with Stefan. So is that because marketing did a good job, or is it because we started that with social selling, then did the LinkedIn Live events because of this and this and that? So there are so many things hanging together, and then you're selling to probably like 5 people in the customer journey. So how do I attribute that to me? And I did go into HubSpot and did count the deals where that said, we booked the meeting because we know you. Or I self-sourced it, where I reached out to somebody and said, isn't it the time we talk about attribution? Or started a normal conversation and then later said, but wait, how do you do audience building? Or something like that. And then it's like, let's talk, and book the meeting. So I sourced around 1 million this year in pipeline. But then again, what was the first touch? Was it just me? Was it because they saw our marketing before and I just was the after fact of picking up some blogs and doing some creative stuff with video? So I understand those executives that are saying, oh, this is just freaking social media. If you sat down, okay, how much time do you use on this? During that time, you could have executed 50 more companies through Apollo to put them in a sequence, and maybe you would have made 20 cold calls to those companies as well at that time, and then put them into the sequence. So what's more worth? And if you calculate it all the way down to the pipeline from those sequences, then it's quite easy to say, oh, okay, so you booked 3 meetings. Great. You use X amount of time, book 3 meetings. But then if you loop all that social selling on top of it, it makes it so much easier to do outbound as well. So it's so difficult to measure, and I understand those executives who don't trust it.
So maybe to put it into relation for other folks, right? I would guess that 1 million is probably higher than your annual quota, right? Obviously, there's a conversion rate, and not the whole pipeline converts into close-won deals. But let's just say you are able to source a third or 25% of the pipeline you need to hit your target, your annual target, by yourself, right? That's If I translate this correctly, that's actually what this is, right?
I love this. Now you translate it to the CROs that understand this language. Yes.
So there you go. But so the point being, right? So I mean, if you have an ACV of $500,000, $1 million, then like, oh, you sourced one deal, great,
Yeah.
Laura, well done. But that's not the case for Dream Data, right? It's a very different ACV. So kind of there's lots of volume behind this. And if you take all the money that you need to spend otherwise on outbound or marketing and all the other stuff in order to kind of create the equivalent, I mean, that's a lot of money usually that you need to spend to source $1 million. And I would ask, everyone listening out there, ops and CROs, I mean, who is even able to source $1 million in ARR per year in pipeline and still do the closing, still do all the other stuff, right? So and I think there the magnitude kind of kicks in. I think for a bigger organization, $1 million in pipeline maybe isn't that much, but for an individual rep, I think it's a lot, right? And I think it's also fair to say you're kind of, when Laura says Stefan, it's actually the CMO. So you work super closely with the CMO and co-founder on some of those things, right? So, and I would even argue it's a little bit much to just say, hey, Laura is an AE. I think you're also, part of the marketing team to a degree, right? I mean, it's almost, you're part of that. Whether or not you report to Steph or not, I'm not sure. But you know what I mean? So it's a little bit much to say that, hey, one rep, sourced $1 million and therefore, right? So, and because of this situation being so special with you, we wanted to kind of drill a little bit deeper into this and try and figure out how you're doing this. And I think that's what this is about today.
It's also just funny because when you hire AEs, and probably still happening, you would also care about what book of business they can potentially bring. Now it's like, well, are you actively posting on LinkedIn? And
how many followers do you have?
So I think that's, you kind of slowly started talking about the next piece of the puzzle, which is, okay, so $1 million, but how much time are you actually spending on this? Is this, almost those, I don't want to say employees, but where they don't spend much time on actual work, they just sit on the feed and keep on scrolling and not doing much. So how much time is actually spent on this stuff?
Yeah. So as a salesperson, you have LinkedIn open all the time. So sometimes it is in front of you all the time. But the actual work, if you were to think about it, like when you're not responding to your prospects on LinkedIn or not writing messages and so on, it is around half an hour per day. So what I do every day, and I do batch create content, I can go into tips and tricks, what helps to reduce that time as well to it. I create a lot of video. And I got into the speed of creating a video that it takes me around 10 minutes to create it and 5 minutes to edit it, to add subtitles, to cut it out, that it is very punchy and I know what to say and how to say it and so on. And then it takes me around, I timed myself today for the post today, it took me 2 minutes to write it. I don't think about it a lot because it's the volume game as well. You can recreate your posts that were well successful before, nobody will notice that. The same with video, the same with anything else. It's very much like branding. You can do it over and over again for you to not overspend time. I have colleagues who really, really want to do social selling. Andrea, she posted an amazing video today about our launch in the cinema today. But it took her hours to get the video together, to film it, to put up the script. The video is great, amazing. But one thing, when she comes over to me and saying, oh, Laura, what do you think? It's like, well, how is the ending of it? It's like, Andrea, post it. Andrea, post it. And then fix it again and post it again. It's fine. And you get into that only by doing it, which means that those types of people that are needed to do it has to find the balance that the time spent on creating that video or creating that post is worth it to be able to execute some other tasks as well. If you brought in a salesperson that is really good at cold calling and is getting those conversations, please don't push them to do social selling if it's uncomfortable. You have to ask them to post or repost or maybe to rewrite something and post it as theirs once in a while, because we all do this. We want to see the traction. We want to see that people are posting at our company, but don't push them to become influencers or go on video that something is uncomfortable and will take a lot of energy from them rather than doing those cold calls, because we want to see that working as well.
And I think to a degree, this is kind of the crux at the whole thing, at the problem here, because I wonder how much you can replicate this, right? How much can you replicate a Laura, for example, right? Okay, cool. Everyone listening is like self-gen, $1 million in pipeline a year and, posting some stuff on LinkedIn. cool, let's have 20 of our reps try and do this right now. It's not going to work out, you know. And I think that's a thing here to kind of unpack and dig into, where there's almost a fine line between, you know, we kind of recently did an episode on founder brand, right? Kind of founder brand is, you know, it's just the first sales rep, really, right? Let's just be honest about that. And I think social selling, kind of what you've done, is great as an individual, and kind of, you know, with very few it's going to work out. Yeah. But I think it's really difficult to scale, actually, right? So, and I think this is the balance to strike with anyone out there that wants to kind of, you know, try and do some of these things and try and replicate some of the success.
Yeah, absolutely agree. One thing that has to come at the first place before you try to replicate it is you have to have founder support. If you have founders that don't want to be on LinkedIn and does not build that founder brand, big miss. You have to have them do it. But if, let's say, well, it's hard and I want somebody to write it for me and it's ingenuine, whatever, they have to support the cause that we want to be on LinkedIn. And the people that we're putting forward or are saying, okay, that you post like this, nobody has to really approve it, but they have to want to test this. It takes their support to do it. Because if I was just posting on LinkedIn and it was just my own things, like, oh, look at me, I do this, or I want to be an influencer, whatever that is that I was posting, it would be perceived as side job, like side gig, scrolling on LinkedIn. But since we started it with Stefan, and actually this morning I had a talk with a girl. She was asking, it's like, how do you get to be so genuine? It's like, it seems like it's just matching the company brand, what you sell, and at the same time you still do some side stuff and talk about different stuff, but it's all getting together into that one bubble of revenue attribution, talking to marketers and so on. And I came to a conclusion that the reason for that is because it started at the company level. It started with a goal of generating revenue at Dream Data. It did not start with a goal that I want to be that person. I never was. I just figure out that I'm okay, good at it. And since we started it together with Stefan, he was supporting it like crazy. He had a good personal brand already there where we started it. And then Lars, the CEO, he also joined us once in a while for that. And then some right people joined the team who we said, would you like to do a video? It's like, yeah, Ines joined us. Ines is amazing. She came from a video company, so she's great at doing video. And then we find some of those tips and people that we can get together to do some of the social selling. And that's where it becomes genuine, because I care about the company's revenue and much less about myself, of how am I perceived. I want to be perceived like Dream Data is perceived. When people meet me, they feel like this is how it's going to be to work with Dream Data as a client.
So if we start treating social selling as a motion, just because you mentioned the people you mentioned, who do you bring on the team? If there's a listener out there now, would you perceive it as strictly a sales initiative? Let's get the sales out there and be active, or how should someone actually look at this if they want to start implementing this playbook?
It's a mix of sales and marketing most of the times. And the reason for that is because of the personalities of people usually having those jobs. Usually those are a bit more outgoing people, quite good at writing, quite creative as well to find their ways of getting to revenue. Marketers in their own way, sales in the other way. And if we have a couple of people from both teams, then it's much easier. Let's take our content manager, Jeremy. He's amazing at picking up ideas to create videos. And it's very rare that he's on videos himself. He's really good at it, but he doesn't love it. So he gets those videos created for him by a video editor. But then I go over to Jeremy and said, Jeremy, there was a great video of Lars on the stage. Can we cut it? I want to share it. And then we can also share it with the rest of the team. It will be so much easier for the salespeople to share it because he's saying clever stuff that we also say on the sales calls. So it kind of gets into that bubble of how we speak as a company. And then we make it easy for people who don't feel like posting on LinkedIn, but company says it's valuable, so I'll do it. But then there are people who get energy from that. Myself, MC, Stefan, we love it. And some people, we would just say, please, now it's a release. Let's post. Or this is a great video. Consider posting this, or at least sharing it with some of your prospects as well.
Got it. So I think the next step would kind of be maybe to dive a bit deeper into the playbook.
Yeah.
I think we've done a great job so far selling it. So also kind of setting the stage for who should be involved. How would we start? If there's a listener now who goes, okay, got it, sales and marketing, this could potentially be a significant source of pipeline. We only need to spend half an hour per day. I think
it's more when you start. I
know. So how do we start this initiative? Yeah. How do we go about building up an emotion where it actually starts delivering towards the goal we have as a company?
So before you do that, you have to figure out where your buyers are at. Are they on LinkedIn most of the times? Or are they on some Reddit threads where they're looking for something else and suddenly they find you as a troll also making jokes over there? So follow your buyers. Where are they? If they are on LinkedIn some of the time, because if you're selling to sales and marketing, you gotta be on LinkedIn. Otherwise, you're missing out. And if you're selling to, you had an example of finance, they are on LinkedIn too. They don't like any posts, don't comment, because they know that if they do, they're going to be attacked by sales, very likely. Or maybe they're even thinking, I don't want to like or comment it because people will see that I'm doing this and this is social media and this is unprofessional. But the thing is, they're there. So what you need to do is figure out, are they there? What are the reasons for it? What kind of influencers are they following and reading the posts of? For that, you'll need to test a lot. But influencers are important because if you start to appear on their comments and their likes and know how they speak, then it will be so much easier for you to speak that language as well. The one that they care about. And so, okay, we figured out they're on LinkedIn. Good. What do we do next? So the next thing is defining your ICP. What are those ideal customer profiles for you? Important for any type of work at your company, but also for social selling. What type of topics do they care about? What don't they care about? When you think about the topics that they care about, it's very likely not your company, because they care about both payroll, or maybe they care about calculating the revenue or making the sheets look pretty or whatever. There are things beyond your product that they care about. And if you were to remember one thing to tell to your team who's doing social selling, there is that on LinkedIn, nobody cares about you and your company. They don't. What they care about is the problems that they're trying to solve, or they're trying to be a little bit entertained while scrolling through LinkedIn. And why are they scroll stopping at some certain posts and not doing that at some others? And you'll have to mix that into your strategy of how am I social selling? So if you remember that they don't care about your company, then they care about the problem to solve. If you speak about the problem and additional problems that are leading to that problem, so you can start creating a map, what is it that I would like to be known for? And what kind of problems lead to that as well? Speak about those types of problems. And once in a while, speak about your company as well. Because they will start caring about, okay, so it seems like this person knows a little bit about these problems. And they also talk about attribution. We don't need an attribution solution right now, but in a year, or my friend needs it, so I will be able to refer it, because that's how that bubble starts to work of content itself. So forget about yourself. If you do for too much of yourself,
So we talked about ICP, we talked about the stuff they care about, the content to maybe write about. What is being thrown around a lot in this whole context is, a point of view, like a POV. You as a company, as a person, need to have a perspective on things. Do you think that's BS, or did you, I'm not saying you sit down and were thinking about it and, oh, this is what it is, let's try, but you might have found it over time, right? Is that something that you've used, or do you know what your point of view is, or do you even, use this concept when you think about social selling?
I think it's very fluffy. That's where a lot of companies, I feel, overthink social selling. Like, oh, now we're going to create this, I even mentioned it, create this mind map of what we can talk about, what we should not talk about. Just go out and do it. I mean, do it, test it out. It could be that you will start talking a lot about your company. Nobody cares. Okay, then we're going to try something different. And then we'll start to say, okay, look, this post picked up. So what we do in order to figure that out, back to your question, we don't have that type of POV of the company. Probably Stefan does somewhere in their marketing team, but it has never been shared as this is our official POV and these are the sub things we should talk about. No. We test this out, and then we have a common Slack channel that whenever somebody posts, everybody shares their post there. Some inspirational posts are shared there. It's like, oh, look, this person's post pick up. Maybe we should talk about the problem like that. So a lot of conversations are starting there. Everybody in Dream Data is in that channel, which means that everybody knows that this is an important topic for us. We do social selling for a reason of revenue. We all share, and we all try to find the way that it's working. The easiest way to get that POV through is through marketing creating the content. They create blogs, they create product releases, they pre-create some text for people who would like to use it. But if you don't, nobody asks you to use what they created, and you can recreate your own stuff. So that hard written down stuff, it sounds like Gartner, and then people don't want to do it because it's just not.
No, exactly. I think it's so when we did this for Growblocks, right? We didn't kind of create a POV, but I think we what?
You tried?
POV. Sorry, I mean he's just the marketing guy. I'm not sure what's going on. No, but we were like actually the way we were going about this, we were looking at, the stuff sales ops and marketing ops and revenue ops is talking about. We kind of had this mind map on this whiteboard, and we were like, wow, this is all really boring stuff.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about this like CRM,
validation rules,
data
like,
cleaning, and all of that jazz. So then, our POV was like, hey, scrap all of that shit.
Forget all about that stuff.
Let's not talk about this. Let's talk about stuff that's interesting.
We don't want to talk about it. You don't want to do it.
Then strategic rev ops and make revenue and so forth. But anyway, that's maybe a different story for another time. And one practical advice I wanted to get out of you, if someone is starting this out, right? What I've seen, people are starting this and then they're like, oh, and now book a demo, and obviously nothing happens and the post doesn't take off. Yeah. So what's your ratio between a hard CTA in the end, or what's your thinking about a hard CTA versus just posting stuff where people can be like, oh wow, so happy for you, Laura, like get promoted, or this achievement or something, or oh, this was funny? Because I feel like the CTA kills the like count. That's sometimes what I'm thinking.
Yep. As soon as you open up a post and see a CTA at the end, you skim. You never read a post. And you see a CTA at the end, so, oh, marketing asked them to do it. Or they're driving leads, and I don't want to be a lead or something. There are times when CTAs work if it's something really fun or something exciting, or let's say we're going to SaaStr, we're doing an event, people join our event. That works because people want to have fun and this is free drinks, fine. But if it's like a white paper or something like that, no. So my posts usually don't have a CTA, none of it. It's like, if you like this, ask me more questions. Yeah, right, I've got so many questions to something else that I'm not gonna ask you any questions. So it's
leave a comment.
Yeah, comment with your ideas.
Thoughts?
Or what do you thoughts? What do you think? It's like, oh my God, I just had one thought, I liked your video, but as soon as you ask thoughts, it's like, okay, goodbye. So it has to be natural, like natural conversation, because social selling does not mean you're doing social and then right after it, you're selling. There is no that different of coin. It's like, if you commented on my post and think, oh, this customer journey looks amazing, then I go to direct messages and say, oh, would you like to see it in your company? This is cheesy. You would never do that, because if you thought a customer journey was cool, well, probably because it is, and one day you will see more and more of that, and one day you'll go and book a demo. So for typical heads of sales, this is a very hard nut to crack, because why wouldn't you go over to this woman, Rebecca, who said the customer journey is amazing? Why wouldn't you ask if she wanted a meeting? No. I'd rather wait a bit and then reach out to Rebecca with something totally out of topic. I don't know, she liked something else, or I found something that might be exciting, totally different. And say, oh, I found this article as well, maybe you'd like it. This is a very cheesy, another sales tactic, but I would start a conversation, like normal conversation. And then later, that Rebecca when there is a problem in their company, would reach out. Or I would make it very, very clear. So Rebecca, 2 weeks ago you mentioned about this customer journey thing. Is it something that you wanted to do, or is it just because you liked it? Like, make it so easy for them to say, no, I don't want the meeting with you, but I think what you're doing is nice.
I do. So first of all, the CTA and the post, yeah, that's, it's very difficult to make this work out for so many reasons. But I have the experience that it can be helpful to tap someone on the shoulder, right? Kind of, you have like a pool of lukewarm folks that are like, and I don't want to say lurking, but consuming your content, maybe liking, maybe commenting, and, kind of actually being part of the pack. Total ICP, absolutely, totally perfect for you. But they would never, get to the point of like, requesting a demo. So what I then actually ended up doing is kind of to do a little bit tap on the shoulder, actually. And it obviously doesn't work out with everyone, but I feel this is sometimes still necessary for, to basically kind of the opinion that we formed is like, if you want something to get done, ask for it. You have to fucking ask for it. And obviously you can't ask all the time and be super aggressive, but whatever you want to achieve, like, don't be a sissy. You need to ask for it, right?
Agree. I can take an example, exactly the same example for how I felt about gifting platforms. There was a time I was thinking, oh, gifting platforms sounds exciting. And there are, right now, I could name 3 companies that are doing it. And I follow them on LinkedIn. I'm almost friends with a lot of people from those companies as well, like LinkedIn friends. And I still didn't crack, like, how do they actually work? And how much does it cost? And is it relevant for it? Because we do send gifts, but we just literally pack it and then ship it. So would it be relevant for us to do it or not? And if I was not tapped on the shoulder by one of them, I would have never booked a meeting. And now when thinking about it, when we are at this scale that, oh, we might want to get one, well, I'll reach out to the ones that I've already seen. Probably will test the rest out, but top of mind is the one that I saw in action.
Yeah. It's funny also because in the beginning you talked about who cares about getting that outbound message. I feel like here it's also a little bit different because you earn the right to see whether the person wants to understand more, not even necessarily going into pitching because there's some kind of relation. I think that's super powerful. One thing I do wonder though is once these, let's say again, there's a listener out there, followed every single advice up until this point, they actually started getting inbounds. But that's also a bit of a problem because is that my account? Is that my account?
Wow.
Why is that in Laura's name?
That's why we didn't have so many inbounds.
I think
thought it's a problem.
it's just there is something around the whole. I did the work, so obviously I should reap the reward. How do you manage this internally in terms of, I don't know whether you have rules of engagement or any kind of SLAs, who's allowed to even reach out?
Well, they certainly have a revenue attribution platform. I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's what after the deal is done, right? No?
While you're at it as well, that works too.
Yeah.
It's a very good point. And for traditional sales, it is a hard one because there's a revenue attached to you. What did you source? Mm-hmm. And if you source a deal for somebody else, what does that mean? What am I getting out of it? Fame?
Yes.
No, thank you. I'll take $10,000 instead.
Double bubble.
Yeah, but
sure.
I think for us at Dream Data, it was a bit easier because it all started with demand generation from marketing. We have that many inbounds that we never really kicked off outbound properly. Every time we're trying this and it kind of works, it kind of doesn't, and so on, but it has never been the thing that is driving our pipeline. It always has been inbound. And the social selling has also been driven by marketing. So kind of inbound mindset that we're creating that social selling awareness about us from people at our company. That is also the reason why people who do social selling a lot have to really like it. They have to enjoy it this much that it also gives them energy. So not $10,000, but it gives them energy as well. And whenever there are good stories of somebody who mentioned you on a call, we always share that. So you would get the fame if somebody mentioned you as well inside of the company, but you would not get the revenue. The rules of engagement at Dream Data are now are. It was not like that before. Before, like, sell whoever would buy, and then we figured that out at the beginning. But now we've got rules of engagement. Which area are you owning for outbound? Inbound, round robin for Europe and the US. But for outbound, we have specific areas that you're responsible for, and you try to crack those areas. And if that account falls into yours, try to poke them on the shoulder. In addition to that, if there's somebody in somebody else's area is in my DMs, or I know I can get a meeting with them, and it's not on somebody's name, but in that area, I can claim it as well. But I would reach out to the salesperson in that area and say, I have a good contact, and I will try to book a meeting. All right?
I have a very simple. Sorry, I didn't want to.
Go.
I was thinking a very practical kind of question. There's like, I'm not sure if you guys have that, but like a free text flow in the inbound form. If someone mentions your name, are the ROE that then goes to you?
No.
Okay.
So there you have it. If you inbound with Dream Data after this episode, you can write Laura all you want. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter.
right.
She, like,
So you might as well write
if you're
revenue
taking
formula.
the meeting from the office, and then she will wave and say, "Oh, hello, the star is there," and like, "Where's my money?" But no, it's just round robin and goes to the right people as well. Because how do I know if I sourced it? They would mention me, but probably they also saw a video of Stefan, of MC, and stuff like that. But they just probably, the last thing they ate was lunch. And during that lunch, they saw my video, and that's when they booked the demo. So is that type of attribution doesn't work is still there on social selling for sure. And it's a frustrating part for sales.
I just want to
I had so many more questions, but Nico's cutting me off. It's
that's
like,
why
time is off.
We need to just progress to the final bits and pieces before it's over. And I actually just wanted to ask you, what are some of the dirty secrets you haven't shared yet? Some of the tricks that you really will have a hard time now letting go of and putting out in public? Because I think a lot of the stuff has definitely been valuable. But sometimes some of those tricks, they're also just really helpful to get some of those quick points on the board so the initiative can continue, right? So if someone is now building this initiative, what would be kind of some of your dirty secrets to share?
Two things come top of mind. A very usual question I get is like, do you want to go viral? And my dirty trick and answer is no, you want to go consistent. Because if you go viral, random people will like it and comment on it and so on. And very likely you won't get enough of the quality that you actually want. So you want to be consistent rather than viral. If consistency means slow growth of views and comments and so on, and when you follow the trends, we're going the right direction, fine. Virality, I don't care. Stefan cares sometimes about it. He likes it. He's very sad that Sam left our company. He does the memes and he gets viral very often. But I'm not sure if we're getting the leads out of that. We're just seemed like a funny company, which is also a nice thing. And the second thing is product videos. So before, at the very beginning of this podcast, I said people don't care about you, they don't care about your company. There are times when they care. So my best performing videos are the ones that get usually the least likes and engagement.
Yep.
They get it from the right people. When I share my screen with that round bubble around me and I talk about something very, very short, like 2 minutes, it's hard because you got to take 10 minutes into 2, but you're going to talk about one specific thing on the screen. This is the best because people actually reach out in direct messages themselves and ask, can I see more?
I think this is such an important...
We copied this from you guys, actually.
Yeah, and I think, and a few others, but I think this is such an important point because we also fell into the trap of looking at, we used to get like 100 likes and thousands of impressions. Now we did a product video and we got like 10 likes and...
Yeah, but two inbounds. That's the thing.
And I think that's the difference here. It's all about the purpose, and how you then judge it is very different. All of a sudden, to your point, right? So I think that's definitely a good tip. I could see folks almost falling into that trap. And then I'm going to give you just the last question because you had so many. So out of those many, is there one you want to just fire away before we say bye?
Yeah, it's just like, of course. You said like you were at Gartner, then Dream Data. So this setup is going to be 10 minutes. So I'm not sure if we're going to have time for this. But you said Gartner, then Dream Data. You started out Dream Data, did Outbound, didn't really work out. But we heard this now from Udi at Gong, we heard it from a couple of other people, that outbound without a brand doesn't really work. Kind of, it's really hard to make work, right? So now that you put in 3, 4, 5 years at Dream Data and building out this brand, not only for yourself, but also for the company, do you think it's time to revive Outbound and just try this out and see kind of how this is going to work now?
We're doing it now, and it's working. So it took some time to do the branding stuff, but we're taking it to another level where like our salespeople are already really, really busy with inbounds, but we have to have more salespeople in order to start doing outbound as well. So we are at a point where it's starting, outbound is starting. To make things easy, we start with the signals outbound. So we collect all of the signals that companies are showing us. The strongest signals, are they comparing us on G2? Are they consuming our LinkedIn content? Have they been on pricing but have not identified themselves on our website? Time to act. And that's where outbound starts. And in addition to that, if you're a salesperson and you feel that I can do even more than that, then define your own companies that you would like to reach out, and you can do more of that. But now we're starting with signals. We're putting that into a very structured approach. How do we reach out to companies that are showing signals, and also tie LinkedIn into that very, very tightly, so we're top of mind. And well, it sounds like we are top of mind because you're showing signals. And even when you're ready to buy, then you already have been approached by Dream Data, and you probably have already said yes because of the brand.
So I just want to say thank you for hopping on, Laura. And I also want to say thank you for my co-host for bringing us off topic with the last question.
It's always my job. It's always my job. Everyone will walk away like,
so
wow, this Laura lady, she knows everything about outbound.
I was sure the title was something with social selling, but here we are.
I was just rounding out the topic.
No, exactly. It's always
fantastic.
Good.
Guys, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I'm watching you all the time. I love your podcast. And when you reached out to me, Miguel, I was impressed. It's like, okay, something's working. They want to have me besides all of the people that you know on the market. Thank you for that.
There you go.
Thanks for inflating my ego. I really appreciate it.
You need it.
I need it.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks everyone for listening. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.